Who knows? Life
Who
is weird.
knows?
I don't know. It's a pandemic. But our wonderful judges are first Chris Solis, the producer at Solis Game Studio, and also Julie Ahern, which is maybe how you pronounce it, who is the VP and COO of Greenbrier Grams, co-host of You're Invited, director at large on the Gamma board. She's designed educational games, The Apocalypse, Tales of Barbaria, and like a lot of other things. But Chris, anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, I can't compete with that credit list. But yeah, um,
Julie's a rock star.
I guess it's my
Doesn't
thing
sleep.
to. I work with a lot of IP games, like a video game licenses, trying to make video game stuff. Like work with like Rebels of Ether and like BlazBlue and stuff like that.
Chris is also an excellent human being. So, great job, Chris. Julie, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think that's the highlights. We're good.
Okay, and our first designer is the J Bell. Feel free to say something about yourself, and then we'll go straight into your pitch.
Cool, cool. First, I guess thank you guys for having me. This is great practice. And my name is Jay Bell. I'm pretty new to games. I've been working on games for about 2 years now. And I'm also doing a few board game reviews with Board Game Gumbo. But this is me trying to get my feet a little more wet in this world.
Great job.
Nice.
Starting now. 3 minutes.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so my name is Jay Bell, and I am so happy to be able to present to you today. With that being said, I'd like to take you on a trip to Louisiana so that I can tell you about my game, Frogs and Rain. You see, in the small town of Rain, Louisiana, frogs that they have the fastest feet in the South. Let's take a look at what this cultural tradition looks like as a board game. As you can see from the slide, in this dice rolling decision making race, 2 to 6 players, ages 7 and up, will spend 15 to 25 minutes moving their team of frogs from the center of the board to the outer edge. On your turn, you'll roll 2 dice, and you can use those numbers either individually or together to hop closer to victory. Speaking of hopping, with the right circumstances, you can hop over any amphibian in your way. Isn't that totally awesome? There's also some rewards for rolling doubles, and outside of rolling doubles, you also have tons of decisions to make as you work your way into the winner's circle. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How can I enjoy a game that's so luck based? What if the dice aren't nice to me? Well, you see, in Frogs and Rain, even bad turns are rewarded with chances for redemption. If your dice are unusable, you get to play a star lily pad. These things are so frog and awesome that your opponents are going to want to use them too. And they let you permanently manipulate the board to make your path to victory a little bit easier. Wow, that trip to the frog capital of the world was really bringing back some memories. If you think this is just your average roll-in move, you can forget about it. I'm willing to bet my biggest bullfrog that you are going to love the agency and planning it takes to win. And that is Frogs and Rain.
That was the best. I am a sucker for puns, and that was awesome. That was fantastic. So I had 2 questions. You're saying it's ages
Mhm.
7 and up. I can see so luck based and rolling to level the playing field usually does for younger ages. I want to know 7 was that. How was the decision of ages 7 and up made? What kind of testing or play testing have you done for that?
Right. So I do understand that kids some develop way quicker than others. Right now, 7 is kind of where we're projecting that the target audience will be. With some more playtesting, that could adjust either a little higher or a little lower. But I believe that based on some of the playtests we did, those children of that age will be able to sort of look at their dice and look at the spatial planning of where should I move next and figure out their best options.
How much reading is involved in the game?
Um, Very little, just reading numbers.
Just reading numbers. Cool. That's more where I was going at because I think strategy wise, looking at it, it looked pretty pretty easy to see how somebody could roll and make those decisions needing just basic addition facts. So cool. Thank you. And the other question I had was, so you're talking about a very specific and really cool cultural thing. Are there any tie-ins besides just it being frogs, or is there any information in the rule book, anything that adds in some of why that is an amazing little snippet of our world that I knew nothing about that now I need to go Google as soon as we're done?
At the moment, no, but I have gotten some suggestions from the cultural experts, actually, my wife and her family, who ran some of these frog races,
So
to
cool.
try and incorporate some of the crazy things that could happen into the game, and we are thinking about using that in the game.
Awesome.
In terms of the way you present information to publishers, I want to know like the core mechanic first. Kind of got that at the end, so it's kind of hard to piece together where this is going, and I want to hear that first. So like, hey, this is a roll move game for kids that accomplishes this purpose. Probably maybe bring it right after the lore, the first few seconds. I think that would help me get the mindset. Like, okay, this is for this kind of audience, and now I can, as you explain the details of the game to me, I can see why it fits that audience. As opposed to, here are the details, I wonder what audience it fits into. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. Like knowing that it was more educational would be good up front. But I do really like that it's cultural, educational. The puns were amazing. Overall, I think you explained it very well. So great job. Any last feedback?
When it's further along, talking about specifically because it has the potential to be good for educational, just the decision making, it is at that age, I think age appropriate to say that it's still educational. What your goals would be? Did you want to lean into the education aspect and talking to libraries, or did you want to lean in further just into the it's a cool thing, but really it's more for entertainment kind of a thing? So what are your
Okay.
long-term goals for it?
Right. They aren't set in stone yet, but what's nice about the culture of Louisiana is that they're really, really into buying local. So I did see this as an opportunity for the city of Rain, because this tradition actually isn't continued anymore, partially because of the pandemic, and I thought of this as a way for families to still be able to enjoy that experience, but in the comfort of their own home. So I definitely wanted to make it available widely in the Louisiana area, but then also in the schools in Rain and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, and that's a really cool thing to put in like the very end of a rule book. Just like a FYI, like I made this because we can't do it anymore. Like I think that's really cool. But thank you. We'll go on to the next person. You did a great job.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can do this right. Like, oh, it's Sean. Like I keep like I knew what was happening. You do not have a secondary computer, right?
Me? No.
Hi, Sean.
Sorry. Hi.
Hey, Sean.
Morning all, or evening, afternoon. Obviously by the accent, I'm not from the US.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's amazing how there's a world out there sometimes. Not that any of us get to see it anymore, except on screens, but these are the weird things that happen. So, I will try and share my screen. Yeah, that looks like it's working. You can see Tabletop Simulator in all its ugly glory, I hope.
Yes.
Excellent. Cool. Okay, well, I'm Sean. I'm from Canberra in Australia. Thank you for doing this for us. We all need the pitch practice because it's really hard to do. So my game is Wild, Wonderful and Weird. It was also known as Animal Rescue till I saw that there were a billion games called that. It's about catch and release for Australian native animals in the outback or the bush. We have a big feral animal problem here in Australia. Some weird stuff that was introduced to try and improve things actually caused more problems, like cane toads, brought in to eat the cane weevil, but they can't actually jump high enough to catch the weevils from the sugar cane. Toxic venom on those have been killing reptiles. We have feral cats that kill lots of birds and lizards, foxes, all these great things. So in this game, what you're trying to do is catch and release Australian native animals and cull out the feral animals. So we start off with a deck of 45 cards and we put 25 out in a 5x5 grid representing the area that you're collecting in. Each player will take a face down card to seed their hand, and we have a total of 5 cards per hand, and it's split up between a concealed and open hand. So when they're face down, you chuck it into your hand, and that's your secret information. The second player will take their card, and then that is where we start collecting. So these are our trapping cards, and we line them up to form a capture point or capture location. So on a player's turn, they can move either one of these tokens to line up and create a new capture location to take the animal that's there. If they choose to take the animal that's face down, it goes into their hand, remains hidden. If they choose to take the one that's face up, it remains open, so there is open information for the other player. Now you're trying to collect sets. There's 2 kinds of sets that you can collect. You can collect multiples of the same kind of animal, or you can collect one of each kind of that species. So we have birds, mammals, birds, marsupials, monotremes, feral animals, and reptiles. The monotremes are the egg-laying mammals like the echidna and the platypus. So in this case, the orange-bellied parrot, I could play 1 parrot, or I could go for 2, or I could try and get 1 of each kind of bird. On your turn, you pick up the card, and then you get to play your set out to the side. And at the end of the round ends when there's 12 cards total in both players' sets. And at that point, the game ends immediately. You can collect snakes, and you can go for collecting them for points. But if the round ends and they're in your hand, they bite you and then slither off back into the game. But you can also use these to stop your opponent from moving one of the location tokens. So if I had it in my hand, I could play it there, and on their next turn, the opponent cannot move this token. So I've trapped them to collecting a card from this row by just moving this token across. And then at the end of their turn, they'll pick it up. At the end of the round, native animals and feral animals are scored. Feral animals that were played in sets are killed and just put out here face up so that you can keep track of the cards. And then all the cards are flipped over, and the feral animals start killing off the native animals. For every cane toad and reptile that's on there, they kill each other because the snake eats the cane toad, and then the toxin kills the snake. The cats will kill off any birds. So there's no cats, but if there was a cat, the bird would be dead. Fox will eat the rabbit, and then if there's any rabbits left in there, they breed like rabbits. So you just chuck some more rabbits back in. So
It's also
over
time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was going to say over time, hopefully you cull out the feral animals so that you get more native animals in the later rounds. Sorry, over time. Thank you.
For a 3-minute pitch, I think you went like a little too deep into just different things before like getting to the gameplay.
Yep.
Because like this is actually like a really simple game. Like not simple as in bad, but like as in easy to understand and stuff. And like I didn't really get that until like you started talking about the reasons why for things like the snake gets put there because it bites you and things like that. So if you could play up any of those like mechanics that like have reason, like
Yep.
they just make everything make sense.
Okay.
So I have played games of like you said, there are some games out there, not that there's tons and not that it's oversaturated or that this doesn't have a place, but there are several games that come to mind, one by Genius Games and one by Blue Orange, that are card-based trick-taking revolving around animals and their habitats. Neither of them being of the food chain per se, or not doing exactly the same thing, and certainly not of the topic of it being introducing what happens when you add new species to non-native spaces. So if when you finish this, genius games in Blue Orange, you might want to approach them.
Okay, thank you.
But one of the things that I always look at, so you have ages 8+, and the concept of what you're doing is, like you said, it's pretty straightforward. I think an 8-year-old could grasp it. But looking at all those stats below it might be a little challenging for that age. So being really careful about how you present that for them to be able to grok it.
Yeah, some of the feedback I've had is do it as a table.
And also the calling it kill or dead, maybe just saying eating.
Okay.
Like just soften that. I know that's what it is and scientifically completely accurate, but also if you're trying to make it a kid-friendly game, there will be parents that are aghast at such things. And so you have to be mindful of that as well.
I think
Okay, thank you.
eating is definitely stronger too. Like, oh, this is about environment, things.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that. My first thought is like regarding this like chart situation here. Is it possible to have that like maybe on the board where these not that you can see my mouse, but
Sorry, is that the bit at the bottom of the animals with what you've got to collect, or
yeah, like all the tabs
or just what eats what?
The same chart, because maybe that could be like on a reference card or part of the board, so that way that asset can have like more animal on it, and then I can approach it with, hey, I'm going to collect stuff. Then I can look at this side of the board and see why I'm collecting stuff. You know?
Okay, yeah.
My first thought when you booted the game is like, I'm seeing this board. There's a lot of cards. There's a lot of text. This is going to be heavy. It wasn't. It just looks that way, and you can move that information around and have like the exact same game and make it more approachable.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just taking notes.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, that's what this is for. We are glad that you like what people are saying enough to write it down.
At a certain age, your memory goes as well. So
I'm there.
Yeah, I need to write everything down. So,
excellent. Well, if that's it, thank you very much for your time, and I will make way for the next person.
okay,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much, Sean.
Thank you.
I can do two things at once. I'm fine.
I believe in you.
Okay, the next designer is Adam Stitcher.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. I'm Adam Stichter. I've been toying with board game design for the last 8 years, and I'm an escape room and puzzle designer by trade. So I tend to focus on nonviolent themes, and today I'm presenting Mystique. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Mystique is an easy-to-teach area control game about secretly flirting with young nobles at a masquerade. So can you throw on the charm better than your friends while keeping your true colors a secret? So in this screen share, I've got a kind of the game in progress right now. So in Mystique, you're forced to play every card from your hand. I'll show that for character B right here. This is the cards they have left. And each card will help you or another player win over one of these nobles. So you're trying to get as many nobles in each round as you can. You've chosen a special color card at the beginning of the round. And you're playing cards so that that color wins the nobles. So this causes tension because other players are trying to figure out which color you've chosen, and you're trying to figure out how best to play your cards on each of your turns. So I'll share kind of a round kind of for character B. So they've got these 3 cards left to play down here, and it looks like to me that this card right here might be the best card for them to play right now, because they can actually use their token. They have, in a 2-player game, each has 2 tokens to change the color of that card to their chosen color at the end of the game, or at the end of the round. So this kind of allows for some of that mystique to happen, because players don't know, okay, what color are they going to change that to at the end of the round? What color does that influence it towards, etc. So at the end of the round, once all cards are played from every player's hand, players reveal their chosen suit card, and each of the different columns, the colors are counted up to see who wins the noble. So how would you play these cards left in character B's hand to make sure that you got the final wink and dance of the night? Can you steal the affection from under the masked noses of your friends? And that's Mystique.
Cool. So can you maybe you're talking about the broad strokes, which was great.
Mhm.
Can you walk me through how you're placing the cards?
Yeah, so on your turn, you'll choose one of your cards from your hand. So I've just kind of opened up the cards from Character B's hand, and you'll just play one of them into each one of these 4 columns.
What are the
there-
rule sets for what you can and can't place? I guess is what I'm saying.
You can play any card that you want, unless a column already has 5 cards in it. So if a column already has 5 cards, you can't play into that column. That allows there to be some kind of a speed element or a risk element involved, because you don't you want to get your cards into a column before somebody else fills it up, or you can intentionally fill up a column with cards that you want to fill up, so that the cards you want are in there. And there's also effects that affect how cards are played into a column. That's what these effects are. So this one, purple suited cards are played face down, and that's shown right here, and so forth. So players are also using those effects to their advantage as they play down their cards.
Yeah, I think I missed that there was the different rules up top.
Yeah, so this column, this noble can have 6 cards played to it. And this one is also fun. It's the suit with the lowest total value wins the area. So you're not trying to get the highest number for that one. You're actually trying to get the lowest number, which changes things up a bit.
Oh, so one thing, I guess I didn't even understand that those were nobles. Like I knew you had said early on that the goal was to get a lot of nobles.
Mhm.
For some reason I was thinking that they were the cards. I wasn't sure what they were, but when you just showed that card, then it actually clicked that those were the nobles.
Mhm.
So I guess that's just a bit of feedback where I was I thought the game was a little bit different than it was.
Okay. Cool.
I think
Thanks.
that your opening lore pitch was super solid. I was like, okay, sweet, let's go get some nobles. So I really understood what was going there. I did get a little confused too. I think it was kind of interesting that we all got a little confused in a different way. I'm not sure exactly what that is an artifact of right there, but something about
This right here.
explaining the rules confused all of us. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think maybe slowing down. I think you were trying to hit a lot of things in the 3 minutes, which being mindful of the time is good. So making sure that what you're explaining isn't just faster, but concise maybe was the challenge.
Yeah, and you had an extra 40 seconds.
Right. I didn't want to go over. And
I could tell you were being very mindful of the time. I appreciated that that's where it was. You went too fast. So you don't want to lose us because we're I don't understand what this is, which I think all of us, it looks cool. It looks interesting. I wasn't sure in putting down the cards what the deal was of how to put down the cards to get why. I'm getting that there's supposed to be some sort of strategy that involves intrigue, which is reflected in the name or reflected in the you can change your color at the last minute and haha. But how that works is still very unclear to me, and I don't need it to be completely laid out. You don't need to go the other direction but something that explains why I'm feeling really sneaky and doing and sus because I'm doing these, how I'm playing my cards.
right.
I think that's where the disconnect and little things like the top cards being the nobles, having special rules that change your strategy for each one. That's cool. That's good stuff. I wasn't getting the through line of it during the
Okay.
pitch.
Yeah, I'll have to explain that better in the next pitch that I do. So
It might be a flavor reason of what you name each asset. These are what affection cards or flirt cards.
Yeah.
I might get mad
Perhaps.
Witty comment card.
The different masks that you're wearing throughout the night. The thought is that you have 4 masks that you're changing between because there are 4 suits, and you and your friends are all kind of on this bet, kind of to get as many nobles affection as you possibly can.
That's great.
So the thought is when you're playing a card, you're wearing that mask as you talk to that noble. But there's only one mask that you reveal yourself as at the end of the dance. So so the nobles will then be like, oh, the person in the blue mask, okay, they did this for me, or like they danced with me and talked to me in that way.
Got it.
As well as you can share a little bit about yourself, and the changing the mask is like, oh, this is a little bit of personal information about me, so you know who I am as I wear this mask, even though I'll be revealed as a different mask at the end of the night. So that's the idea and the theme that I don't think I quite got across in this pitch, but
Yeah, I like that idea. Like, I am so much more intrigued after hearing the theme, but I'm also like a theme person. Like, so I was like, oh, yeah, this is super cool. I want to try this, knowing that it's like masks and changing things, and like that's the whole idea of it.
But no, and of course depends on the publisher. So I'm also
Right.
theme heavy interested, but there's going to be somebody who's like, just tell me how it works. Tell me the strategies so that I can figure out the math of it's going to be different depending on the publisher, obviously. But being able to speak to both is important.
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right.
The next designer is Brad.
Hello, Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Can you guys? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Hi, I'm Brad. I'm based out of Michigan, and thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. I totally need the practice. Really appreciate it.
Cool.
I want to show you. This is Shots Fired, which is a trick-taking dexterity game where players get to launch their cards out of cardboard cannons. It is for 3 to 5 players and plays in 30 to 45 minutes. So because I'm old school, I'm gonna actually switch my phone to my overhead tripod for a moment. So forgive any shakiness or vertigo for 1 second. Appreciate my technology. All right. Thank you guys very much. All right. This is a 3-player game set up here. You play as pirates, each with your own pirate ship and cannon. And you're squabbling over treasure, so the person with the most coins at the end wins. Now, like most trick-taking games, one player is going to play a card. Everyone else is going to follow by playing 1 card of the suit that was led. The highest card of the suit that was led wins the trick. And that player gets coins. Everyone else around the table gets to take the card they just played, and one at a time, they're going to launch it out of their cannon at the ship of the player that won the trick. So for instance, if this player won the trick, I would shoot my card, this player would shoot their card. And this is an example here. Got one more time, for example. Still a poor example, but this would be a miss, this would be a hit. And different cards do different damage. This 3 of clubs, for instance, does 2 damage. And that's the reason you're going to have to time taking your tricks to not take as much damage as maybe other players. Now, the reason why damage is important is because at the end of the game, after 3 rounds, the player that has taken the most damage on their ship, tracked in this little tracker here, is automatically eliminated regardless of the number of coins they have. So this is a game for people who like their trick takers with a bit of gambling, a bit of tension. So people who maybe like the game Wizard, for instance, who are like hearts, because not only is there the tension of will this card be revealed, but there's the tension of will this shot hit my ship, and the agony of deciding, do I take this trick now that's potentially dangerous, or wait for a later point that may never come to take a trick. That's Shots Fired, and thank you very much.
I am cracking up over the fact that you can like be like, I lost this round. I'm going to have a temper tantrum, sanctioned by the game. It's
It's true. It is a game where everyone walks away feeling good. The people who win the tricks feel good, and the people who lose the tricks feel good.
Yeah, it solves that problem. I would think. I can think of specifically my nephews being highly amused at the fact that they lost and being like, all right. I want to know 30 to 45 minutes for 3 rounds, you said? What
rounds,
is...
yep.
that seems a little bit long for 3 rounds. Can you kind of and the
Well,
way it was explained?
Okay, each round you're going to have, so depending on the player count, like in a 3-player game, you would have 13 cards in your hand per round. So you play until all those cards are out,
I
and
see.
that's
I
the end
see.
of a round. Then you do
Okay.
that again, and then you do that again. So in a 3-player game, you could easily get done. I would probably in like 20 minutes. But in a 5-player game, you could maybe go up to 45 minutes. It
That
just
that
takes
makes
a
more
little bit
sense.
longer for people to shoot their shots and stuff.
Okay.
I love the card launcher. So cool. Like, that's great. I just want to do that all day now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, your pitch was clear. I feel like I understand the game, and I feel like I want to play the game. So, just well said.
Yeah. Well, as somebody that has played the game, it is so fun. Like, I don't like trick takers, but like it was like, oh yeah, every trick you lose, like, let's hit the other people with the cards. And like, well, I don't think you brought it up, but like if you're bad at dexterity games, like, you know, you have the little shooter thing, so like you can't be that bad. And you know, but that's just from playing it.
It's
like-
well.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I love trick taker games. I think trick taker games are far more universal than most of our hobby games in general. It's just I can't play any number of games with my parents because they're just kind of their eyes glaze over. But if I would pull out a deck of cards, they're in. So they'll hang in there for games with their grandchildren because they love them. And we emotionally blackmail them too. But this is something where it's good for them. It's good for the kids, and it's got that because it's got a built-in toy. I think it's a clever idea in general, and it was very clearly conveyed.
I also like the fact that because shooting the card is already tied to losing the trick, that if you miss that shot, it doesn't feel bad because you already got it as a bonus. You're like, sweet, I'm going to try to do this thing now. I didn't land it. It's not like that's the core objective of the game. So I missed that. I guess I lose. Like, that's not there.
Right.
So yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Quickly, do you have some people I've talked to have worried about the dichotomy between people who like trick-taking games and dexterity games. Do you have any ideas or suggestions for when I'm pitching for how to convince publishers that there is indeed a market for it? Which I think there is.
So yeah, my concern isn't that. My concern, because it's literally the game that you're getting for your kids who will play it with their grandparents. You're getting it for the one who wants the toy. It is that bridge. It's meant to. It's a little bit gimmicky for somebody who's just a card player, but the whole idea is that it's supposed to not be for the card players per se. It's supposed to be for the person who wants to play with the card players and doesn't have that interest. Like, I think it's exact. I would push it to the opposite and say, no, I'm not trying to sell the card players on it. I'm trying to sell the card players that it's something that they can get non-card players in to playing their game, but also get kids to play a game that they're not bored with their grandparents who just want to play hearts. Like, I think it actually casts a wider net than that. I don't think that's the problem. I think that the harder part being price point would be higher because you have a toy. You built a toy into a card game, but even that, it's a kids like toys. This should be marketed more towards kids than it is for their grandparents to then be like, Nana, please play this game with me, and her being like, well, I know how to play cards, so okay, cool. Like, that's far more likely than say even Magic, as a card game.
The genre mix, I think that'll definitely be hard to get a publisher that's like, hey, I'm going to put this in retail to want to put that out, because when you go to retail, you have to explain that. But on Kickstarter, I think people love the idea of these fusion ideas. It's this and this and that, and they're like,
I think for mass market it would do well. I think so. I think if you got the right, as long as you have the right strategy, I think mass market is the place where this would shine. As long as you could make those slingshots at a good enough price, because this is a game still. The magic number for anything mass market, you have to go under 40. So whatever this is, it has to be under 40. So if you could get something where this could be sold for $29.95, and it's got a toy and it's a card game. I think that hits so many boxes for mass market that I think that most mass market places would that I could see Target being like, yeah, absolutely sign us up
Yeah.
if you could get it in front of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, this would do so well, like, in Target or some of those places where, like, people might not have ever played any hobby games, but they would play this one because they know how trick-taking works.
Right. So they're looking and they're seeing all these cool new things, but it's a little bit past their comfort zone and they're not sure. This looks familiar and could show that it looks familiar enough that they're like, wait a minute, I play cards. I bet I could figure this one out and be fine and feel like they've reached a little bit further into the game genre. I actually think it is good for mass market. Hobby, less so. But mass market, absolutely.
Well, thank you so
Okay.
much. I won't take anyone else's time up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this and all your feedback.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we have a Zach.
Hello,
Hoekstra.
hello. I'm Zach Hoekstra. I'm a hobby designer that kind of focuses on unique and interesting themes. This game is called Come At Me Then. The theme of this game is that you and your partner are both stage fencers at the Renaissance Festival. This is a 2-player cooperative card game. So to the audience, you're crossing blades, you're hurling insults at each other, you're leaping off barrels, but in actuality, you two are trying to work together to produce a good performance for the crowd. So in this game, one of you is going to be playing the hero, and one of you is going to be playing the villain. There is a little score track here, and the entire goal of the game, each player scores points separately. The entire goal of the game is to get the hero to the end of the performance so that they can win at the end. But you have to do so, 1, within 5 rounds before the next performers come up, and 2, you have to do it while keeping the audience interested. If the hero or the villain just kind of blow past the other, it's not an interesting match. And so the goal of the game is knowing when to gain points and who is gaining those points. You'll kind of want to leapfrog past each other on the track back and forth. The way you do that is with kind of a more traditional style card game. So you are going to be playing cards against each other, and your goal is to score types of combinations. So for example, 4-4-4, this would be a triple, and that would score some points. So you'll just be playing cards in a row. Everyone has a standard set of combinations. Hello. Everyone has a standard set of combinations that they can make. However, every character has unique combinations that they score, that only they score. So you'll play these cards and you'll be scoring these points against each other. But you also have to be mindful, because at the end of each round, you're going to collect all of the cards that you played that round and score those again as a bonus point hand. So you're constantly balancing who needs to gain points, when and how, against what cards you need to have in your hand. If you can manage to score the right points without losing too much excitement and get the person to the other end by 5 rounds, then you've won the game. There's lots of ways to do this, including various point combos. There's also ways to communicate with each other. You can actually hurl insults at each other to selectively reveal cards from your hand to try and point out to the other person what sort of moves need to be played. That's kind of the core of the game. This is well set. I am working on kind of an expandable area with more characters, match modifiers, and other things to kind of make an expandable game that a couple could play consistently and master over the course of, say, several months in quarantine, as it were.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking, if there were a quarantine, this would be a very good quarantine game for 2 people stuck inside all day. And that is Come At Me Then.
So over the course of the past 10 years, at least twice a year, somebody sits down with me and shows me a 2-player combat game, card driven, that's all about like warriors fighting, like Ren Fair style theme, and never has it been cooperative, and never has it been about it's putting on the show, and the actual goal is to make it look good for like this is exactly taking something familiar and turning it on its side in a way that I've not seen, which made me giddy. Because, and I mean, having been in theater and taken stage combat, it was very familiar in that way to me. But the fact that it is, even if you're not, if you're a gamer, you've seen this type of game before, and doing it something different with it was really fun to just see. Period. So thematically, kudos.
Thank you.
I am curious. Like, I'm also curious after the whole, just that pitch, as to how it would work. So it drew me in a way, because I want to know how you would be able to play this without straight up just saying, okay, basically having one person be the alpha gamer and be like, all right, well, you can play this and I can play this, and then this would happen, which is the one challenge of a cooperative game, always ever having designed several of them. So I'm interested. So it was a great pitch for me.
It was a pretty good pitch. I'm Julie on here, like, we hear battle card games all day, and like, I make battle card games. I haven't heard anything like this either. So
yeah,
rad. And it's like you want to be slightly ahead of your opponent, so it's kind of like, well, like fencing. You want to be like, it actually captures the battle a little more. You don't want to like crush your opponent, which takes a lot of the feel bad of those kind of games too. So the theme helps it be a guided experience, which is really cool.
Right. Made it completely plausible of why you would be doing this in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great pitch. It looks like a great game that is different, and, good job overall.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and you went with the cat very well. Like, it didn't mess you up. So like,
I'm used to it by now.
I was gonna say, anybody with cats was like, yep.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you so much. You did
Thank you.
amazing.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
So he was not on our earlier list, correct?
He is Zach Hoekstra. For some reason it doesn't say his name anymore, and I'm typing it in. But yeah, he was. People are trying to change the list. Please do not do this. Please do not. He's
Thank you.
It was line 11. Yeah, we had a order change.
Cool.
That's fine. Yes, he is on the list. I can.
So at some
hook you
point
up
when
with
that gets cleaned up and there's maybe a link to a sell sheet, that would be great for me.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, he. Well, I can see everyone, so he did a thumbs up. So
Cool.
yeah, great. Now, I thought that I clicked the button. Here's Kenny.
Hello. I'm so sorry about the confusion before. I thought I was waiting to get called out on the stream, and then I needed to jump in and everything. I was around, and then all good.
Yeah, sorry about that. You don't have your full name, so I was like,
Yeah,
who's Kenny?
no.
I don't know.
That's all good. I apologize about that. Totally my fault. Hi, everyone. Obviously, from my loudness and my accent, you can probably tell I'm Australian, much like Sean was. And so, how's everyone going today?
Great.
Good.
Excellent. So I don't know why it's not letting me share my individual application window, but I'm going to be showing my whole screen to showcase my game on TTS. My game is called Scrap. I'm just going to bring my screen up right now. Can you guys see TTS at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So just a quick disclaimer before I get into the pitch properly. Very much of this artwork is not my own. There are only 8 pieces of artwork which are mine, which are on each of the individual robots in the game. So I'll only zoom in on the artwork that is mine. Everything else considered to be just part of the prototype. With that aside, I'll get straight into the pitch. So this is Scrap. So in Scrap, you play a race of robots from a different planet that has just become intelligent because of an event called the Singularity. The Singularity caused you to become intelligent, and you've decided that you want to go and find out what caused this, what made you evolve and become intelligent, and how can you make it and harness it and so that you are able to become even more powerful. You've arrived on this planet, and you've arrived at the same time as a bunch of other robots who have also been awakened. And you've decided that the best way to determine the source of this is to get rid of all of the competition and make sure that only you can gain the knowledge. Your friendly robots like that. So the objective of the game is a victory points race. So you were trying to get to a certain number of victory points before the end of the game. That hasn't been determined yet because we're still going through lots of play testing, but that is the end point of the game. Now, the primary driving mechanism of the game is a programming mechanism. So throughout the game, what you'll be doing, I've just zoomed in on this person here, is you'll be setting functions down into a program. So just like so, I've just put 3 for now. What will happen then is when it is your turn, you will resolve the rightmost function. You'll slide that over to the discard pile, slide the other 2 cards to the right, and then place a new card into your program here. So effectively, when you're choosing an action to resolve, you're actually going to be resolving it in 2 turns' time. So there's a little bit more uncertainty in the game than a usual 4X area control style game. So that way, people can't just choose the best action on their turn. They really have to plan ahead and think about it and kind of make do sometimes with their plans that have been thwarted. Eventually, what will happen is that a lot of your programs will end up in the discard pile. Once that's happened, you can program a reboot. Your reboot is kind of like an upkeep turn. You won't do anything on that turn except for return a lot of your cards to your hand, and you'll also learn a new function. It has a little bit of a Slay the Spire-like feel. So just to show you an example, once you've rebooted, you can choose one of the cards in your discard pile and gain an improved version of it. So I might choose to improve. When I do that, I'll go up to this top section here. The layout is obviously not final. It's just a prototype. I'll draw 3 of these cards and then choose 1 to add to my hand. And they're all the same card with a slight twist on it. So just to show you a little bit more about a function, you'll notice that in the top right of the function, there's this little green icon. You'll also have this thing called a directive. If your icon matches your directive, you'll actually get a powered up ability, which is indicated by the lightning. So for example, normally this card would just let you move your ship around the map. But if you've got the navigate directive active, you would also be able to discover a new hex. So you're actually discovering new lands to go out and explore. The game is an asymmetric area control game, so the different factions in the game will have different powers. They'll each have a unique strength, a unique weakness, and a unique bot that they can build. The key thing about the strengths and weaknesses is that they're intertwined. So it's not just, oh, this faction is great at combat, but not good at science. It might be they're great at combat, but also they're really bad at combat in some way. So you can't ignore your weakness and just focus on your strength. You have to engage in both in some capacity. The game is also really heavily predicated on interaction. I hate turtling strategies in games like this. I think that if you're going out and risking things and trying to interact with other players, you should be rewarded for that. So that's part of the reason why the map starts very small. So there is a lot of interaction focus in the game.
Time.
Yep, that's fine. All good. Sorry, I'll turn off my screen share because
Oh, bad infinity. Yay. I keep starting. I want to give somebody else a chance to start first.
Yeah, all good.
Does the map expand then?
It does. So when you discover new tiles, I can show you, but when you discover new tiles, effectively you're adding new hexes to the board. So it starts off small and there's a lot of interaction up front. But as the map expands out, that kind of ties in with the fact that people will be ramping up and getting more units. So there should always be activity all across the board. It expands out based on player decisions, though. So it's similar to games like Dominant Species and Inish with the amount of with how it expands out.
Okay. I think I definitely would want to hear that a little earlier in the pitch, maybe right after you talk about like upgrading, maybe before that. So then it's kind of like, I think that's interesting, just like the map expanding. I remember when you were explaining it, that part of the game, I didn't have vision on what happened.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It is a heavier game than some of the other things we've seen so far. So covering everything in 3 minutes is a challenge, and you were doing an excellent job of it. But it meant that you also, there were certain pieces that you didn't get to in time. So that is the challenge of a 3-minute pitch, which is hard because you were doing a good job. So I did want to hear the full thing, and if we weren't in a 3-minute time crunch, I'd be like, no, you can give me a couple more minutes. So you were doing an excellent job of explaining it because I was interested to see how it worked. I think it sounds like you put a lot of thought into and I appreciate, like, sometimes when people compare their games to other games, people are like, don't do that. I do like it when it's something that is challenging enough that you need to shortcut in something as short as this.
Hmm.
It also showed me that all the things that might have a similar feel you've played and taken into consideration. So that's something that people go either way. Either they really like it when somebody does it, or they really don't. I thought you did it in a very useful way because you weren't saying it's like it because da 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 da. You're just like, it's like this, to try to get the mechanism explained really quickly, but then
Yes.
going on to why it's unique, which I think is the most effective way to use that kind of thing as a tool.
Great.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that Julie said. Like, this is a heavy game. It has so many mechanisms, like the asymmetric. It seemed like deck building because you're like building
It's
up.
a hand building mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your programming, area control. There's probably other ones there. So like, I think
There's a few.
you did very good. And I like that you started with the theme because like I knew like what we were talking about and doing. So very good. For the pitch of a heavy game in that short of a time.
Right.
Awesome.
And it also very clearly indicated that a publisher is going to know whether they want to do a game of this depth or not pretty quickly. And if they do, they're looking for something that is pretty well is already very well thought out and complete. And your explanation of it shows that you're at least appear to be on top of that, as opposed to an automatic red flags of a lot of vision, not actual follow through on how it works together. That seemed to look like you've spent a lot of time showing how it works all together in a way that's easy to explain to somebody so that the ramping up learning process is less steep, which is super important for something like that.
Awesome. I just had two quick things to say. I was going to say that the programming, the reason why I focus on the programming in the pitch as well is because I think that's its central unique mechanism. So definitely I could have focused on the area expanding earlier in the pitch, but I kind of wanted to focus on the programming specifically because I think that's its most unique aspect. So I wanted to showcase its strength. The other thing I was going to say is, it definitely, I've probably shown it to about 50 or 60 people, like play testers, and I've done 40 or 50 play tests. So I'm fairly confident in where it's going. It's not finished by any means, but I put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, one thing I would say is like you don't have to mention that like you don't know for sure because like I would expect that any game that's being like pitched or play tested, like things could change if they do a play test and they're
nobody's
like,
going to be surprised at that, but just the fact that you do have it was clear that you have a plan, not just a vision.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All good. Thank you so much, guys.
Great job.
Hey, Kenny.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Now we have David Waldman.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I actually know everybody in the chat here, but for everybody else watching, my name is David Waldman. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm one of the group organizers for Ultimate Team Up, which is a game design group. And I also want to mention that we're going to be doing our online virtual playtest convention next weekend, the 29th and 30th. And both Carla and Julie will be guests there, and I'll be interviewing them about game design topics as well as running a game publishing company. So I will post that link after we're done with this in the Weird Raptor Discord channel, so people can check that out if they want to register. And it is free, just to let everybody know.
Okay, and your game pitch?
Yes, let me get set up here. My screen share. And great. Can everybody see the tabletop simulator?
No, you're not sharing it yet.
You also just got real laggy.
Well, yeah, his screen just stopped working.
Yeah.
So.
I heard so I could hear you, but you're frozen and we don't see Tabletop Simulator.
So, any general tips? Oh, okay, maybe back.
Hold on, let me try this. Application, oh, sorry. There we go. There we go. Okay, that should be working now, right?
Yes.
There it goes.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. So my game is called Fruit Caravan. So the king of Fruitopia has decided to open his kingdom to international traders. The kingdom is rich in apples, bananas, and the exceptionally rare star fruit. It's up to you and your fellow traders to construct the best trade routes across the land and become the royal trader. So Fruit Caravan is a draft and draw route making game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about 20 to 30 minutes. And the difference between other drawing games is everyone is drawing on the same board. You're going to be making your routes on the same board. Now, on your turn, the core mechanic to get started is you're going to be drafting routes from one of the available cards, and then you're going to draw that route onto the map. So as you see here, the routes are laid out here. You draw a route card equal to the number of players plus 1. So in this example, in a 4-player game, there are 5 routes. And the routes have a variety of hexes. They can either be 3-hex route, 2-hex route, and there's even a 1-hex route. And the reason you may want to choose a different route is because you see these numbers in the upper right-hand corner. Depending on the route that you choose to draw will determine your draft order in the next round. So for instance, here is the drafting order of the players from top to bottom from the last round. So the red player would go first, and let's say they choose to draft this card. And now I'm going to be playing the purple player, and so I have these 4 route cards then available to me. Now looking at the map, I've already drawn a couple routes here. Routes have to be drawn from the end of your previous route. Now what you're trying to do in this game is to connect your starting number from one side of the map to the opposite side of the map. So the purple player is number 1, so they're trying to reach this opposite side of the map. And as you go along the map, you have these circles which represent the apples, oranges, and bananas of the different colors. Every time you pass over a fruit, it's worth 1 point. Additionally, you also have these colored hexes which represent cities that have a favorite type of fruit on the board. If you manage to cross that city with one of your route cards, you're actually going to double those points to 2. Now, when you draw a route card, you have to start from the end there. But one of the differences is, in addition to that, you can set up these things known as trading posts. So every player starts with a card that allows them to draw a trading post twice per game. And basically, the way trading posts work is at the start of the turn before drawing, if you have a hex that doesn't have anything printed on the board, doesn't have a route on it, or is not next to another trading post, you can set up one there and then draw your route from any of those sides of your trading post that is available. So for instance here, you see the purple player has already crossed the red city and has an apple. So they probably want this other apple here. So in order to do so, they would have to take one of these route cards here. So for instance, if I want to take this one that's just 1 hex, I could easily, from this trading post here, just draw straight up and then get this apple. The other thing you want to do with your routes is try and block other players from completing their routes as well as capturing other fruit. So like the green player you see is going here. So if I was able to draw a route like that, I would then block them from going certain directions. Now, as you see here, you can easily cross over people's routes. You just can't double back to go over somebody's route. And the game ends when somebody's route touches the opposite side of the map, and then the round will finish out to all players that haven't played yet. And then scores are calculated based upon how many fruit players have collected as well as cities they visited. And the player with the highest score will be declared the royal trader of Fruitopia.
Okay. Well, one of the things I really liked is that early on you said like why it was a different sort of drawing game because like you're sharing the board, and you also had the game like midway through. So like immediately when you were like, oh okay, well we play this card and we go here, like I could see like different things. Like I could see that like there was 2 colors that went through a red one, so I knew that that was possible. Like
Right.
you did a lot of those things like really well, and I didn't like wonder about them or have to ask. So overall, like really good.
Thank you.
I also appreciate that even though you were interrupted in the middle of your pitch, you just kept going. It didn't derail you. Thank you for that. So I also, minor note, you said 20 to 30 minutes. Your sell sheet says 15 to 20. So make sure that
Sorry.
you fix yourself. No, just
Yep.
somebody who I read the
know.
sell sheets.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
So make sure that it's consistent. I actually think 20 to 30 minutes is for what all is happening there. I get that it's, you're getting the same feel as a Ticket to Ride or a Metro, or like, I get that, but so it's okay if it's a little bit longer, even if it's for a slightly younger age, just making sure that it's consistent. I think that 20 to 30 minutes is perfectly acceptable, or just saying 30 minutes for something that you're playing with kids for something like this
Okay.
is
Right.
nobody's going to balk at that. And then the age 10 plus, I know why it's 10 plus, because even though all you're doing is matching the image to doing this, that still takes a little bit of spatial awareness that some younger kids would be able to do, but probably not as many. So that makes sense. Because it's fruit does seem like a younger theme, a much younger age theme. Like fruit to me says ages 4 to 5, and then a 10-year-old, I don't think they'd be opposed to fruit, but I don't think it's the target cool thing for them anymore. So maybe considering amping up at least the look of the fruit, something to that effect. Because I know that families would be happy with that, because they'd be like, great, something that isn't blowing up and things like that. That's great. But I also think that 10-year-olds want things that blow up. So some sort of adding to the appeal of the fruit that makes it more to that slightly older age range. But that was more towards the game. The pitch itself, I thought, was very solid in explaining what it was supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
That's great. And do you imagine this, like people actually drawing on it with like dry erase markers?
Yeah. Pre-pandemic times, everything I was doing would be with dry erase markers. So it would basically be a dry erase board. Everyone would have, their markers, which makes it easy to, what I wanted to design is a route building game where you don't need all these tiles. If you want to cross over somebody's route, you just cross over it. Or if for some, reason you need to back up, you just erase your route there. And obviously then that could lend itself to different boards, kind of like Ticket to Ride style, where you have different maps that you could play on. This one is kind of like a symmetric hex-based one, but as far as like different boards have things like different lakes, mountains, things like that, like longer boards, different kind of interesting shapes, so it make the routes kind of interesting. And also at the end of the game, you get a very unique route map that you've all kind of worked on collectively together. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, well, thank you so much, David. You did great.
Great, thank you guys.
Thanks.
And now, last but not least, we have Emily.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. I am coming to you from a sailboat in the Dominican Republic, so I'm hoping the connection is adequate enough to share my game with you today. My name is Emily from Small Free Games. We are a new game design company focusing on games that are simple to learn, have high social interaction, and great storytelling. And today I'm going to share with you the Mice of Marlow Manor. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
It's there now.
Yep.
All right. All right, well, this is the Mice of Marlow Manor. This is a one versus many game that pits a mischief of English mouse families against an amateur exterminator who has decided to kick them out of their house. This game plays in about 60 minutes. It's for 2 to 5 players, and ages 10 and up, we're still honing the age range specifically. So as a one versus many game, we have one player that's going to play Mr. Hackett up here, and then all the other players are going to play these cute little mouse families. Each family has 2 different mice in it. The goal of this game is for the mouse families to each collect 3 pieces of cheese per family and keep at least one of their mouse family members alive. If they can do that, they will defeat Mr. Hackett. But if they can't, Mr. Hackett will defeat them and move into the house and start a bed and breakfast and get filthy, filthy rich. So the way that this game works, for Mr. Hackett, this is a hidden movement game. So he uses these house cards over here and lays these down in the house. And these house cards have a variety of things on them. They might have cheese, which are useful to the mice. There's also an extra morsel card, which is a little reward for them. Some empty rooms, but the most scary things he has are 2 cats, which can kill mice, 2 traps, which can also kill mice, and the deadly arsenic card, which kills mice, and there is absolutely no escape for them. Once Mr. Hackett has set up the house, he makes notes on his handy-dandy little clipboard here, which is hidden from view of the other players, and he puts his meeple onto the board on whatever space he chooses that will prevent mice from entering the room. Once he has done that, it's the time for the mice to set up their part of the game. They each draw 2 mouse cards, and mice cards give them special senses and defenses that they can use to deduce special information about the face down cards or react to the face down cards once they are face up. After they've done their cards, they put their mouse meeples, or as we like to call them, scooples, into the corners of the house, being careful to avoid Mr. Hackett, and then the game is ready to begin. There are 2 phases to the game. There's a daytime phase, which is when Mr. Hackett moves, and then there's a nighttime phase, where the mice all work together, and they take turns in whatever order they want, and they have a choice of these different actions, which they, which are easy to remember with the handy acronym mouses. They can move within the walls, which is moving their squiggles around the board. They can obtain a mouse card by spending 1 cheese. They can use a mouse card by discarding it and asking a question of the Mr. Hackett's player who will give them information. They can share cheese by giving cheese or information with other mice, and they can enter a room by flipping a card. If they, while entering a room, stumble upon a threat, they can react to it if it's something they can react to, but if they stumble onto arsenic or they don't have cards to escape the threat, their little mouse meeple dies. And so the card is removed from the board, and then they must wait for the final action, which is all other mice must donate 3 cheese to the family while they are in mourning, and if they collect 3 cheese, they can send in a new mouse. But if any mouse family loses both of their mice, the game is over. So what makes this game fun, I'll make it daytime again here, what makes this game fun for serious gamers is that there are only 26 house cards, and in this deck there are 2 cats, 2 traps, and 1 arsenic, so there's a good deal of card counting that can go on to try and deduce what's on the board, what's been played, and what is still available. So serious gamers, after we do play testing, they're always commenting, oh, we should have done this, or we should have known that was there. There's a lot of good table talk. But at the same time, I have a little niece that's 9 years old, and she loves to play this game because it's simple to learn. She loves to play Mr. Hackett against her mom and dad and her grandparents. It's a great way to introduce kids to this idea of being a game master or having kind of an asymmetrical game. And it's also a great way to teach them teamwork, because if anybody goes off and just kind of plays their mouse without looking at what the other mice are doing, the game ends very quickly, and it's not as fun. So that is the Mice of Modern Mother in a nutshell.
Rad.
That was a great pitch. It was clear what everything was, what its selling points were in there, how it works is in there. You had already in the tabletop simulator showed how it's thematic and how the theme works without even having to explain it, and adding, I mean, you did some cool stuff with it. As somebody who spends a lot of time on tabletop simulator, I appreciated all the bells and whistles you put into it.
I have to give a shout out to Alexi Milano at Tabletop Workshop who helped put this together.
Yeah.
And we were joking about what else he could do, and I said, well, this is impossible, but if you could make the lights turn dim when you flip it to nighttime. He's like, oh, I have to learn how to do
I
that.
know. Lua programming can make it happen if you want to take that time. I don't have the time anymore, but yes, so I thought it was a great pitch. I could see how it translates. I appreciate that you're saying you're working on the age range. I think that it has a lot of similarities to, like the asymmetrical one person trying to thematically, if you're a beginner board game, you're still playing. Most people are going to something like a oh, come on, why can't I code names? And it has enough of the similar pattern that's going to translate without being a game that's the same. I liked all of that, and then thematically, it's very age appropriate for a younger age. So if you can get it to a younger age, that's while still being something that I think older kids would still want to play because it's that getting away with something kind of thing, even if it's cute and looking
Yeah.
cute for younger kids. It's a good thing.
The idea of mice dying is kind of the tricky part for us. Like, we toyed with the idea of catch and release traps, or maybe there's a junior version. But when you take the death out of it in playtesting, like, that's really what makes people go, oh, I died! You know,
Yeah,
it's not
the
like,
tension
oh, I
of
got
it.
caught.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
there's definitely a back and forth that happens.
Right.
I mean, it really depends on like how you present it. Mario dies, but like it doesn't have to be death. It can be like, oh, I'm defeated or something, or
Yeah, they're putting a mouse
dead.
cage.
Hold
or
on,
something.
her internet I think just went down.
I guess that's being on a boat.
Yep.
That's so cool. Just the fact that she's able on a boat somewhere and just join.
And totally unrelated. I did see like where in some of the game design groups talking about her logo recently, which is absolutely adorable. So just in general, I think presentation wise, Emily has got it down. Technology wise, when it's up, also has it down looking at the tabletop simulator. So the challenge is always getting that internet connection, which is tough anywhere in the world right now.
Yeah.
So
okay, so we could wait a little bit for Emily if you two are okay, and maybe you could give like I don't know, your just general pitching tips.
well, I was looking through her the cell sheet. So right here it says ages 12 plus. She said 10 plus, trying to get it younger. I do think it would be like trying to being accurate with the age range is important, and I'm also super interested in seeing what the mouse size travel version would be. I think that having a long-term plan like that, things like that if you have plans for them, having that as a potential is not a thing that can hurt you when sharing it with a publisher, because I think most publishers are trying to think of how the various ways that they can potentially plan if your game is super successful. And if you say, oh, I have one of those already, that's super useful as well. And putting it on your sell sheet is good.
Yeah, like I would love to know like the success oriented plan. Like, okay, if this blows up, we have a full plan and we know what to do. And if it doesn't, like that's fine too.
Yeah, it's reassuring. I agree. It's kind of like this person's had thought it through. They're serious, and it's not like, like the weaker version is like, yeah, check out my TCG with 12 expansions. It's like calculated.
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We were talking about your sell sheet. We were talking about you while you weren't here.
Welcome back. Yeah, it was.
I think your audio isn't completely working.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
I heard that.
Oh, it's in there. Sort of.
Hello?
If you want to use the comments, we could read the comments out loud, or
You can hear us.
Yeah, so
Right.
continue
So we were
giving
just
feedback.
right. So the cell sheet, we were just pointing out. So you had said, you're still toying with the age, so getting that specified would be good. But also the fact that you have just below that you have plans for, if successful, the mouse size travel version, like things like that showing it to a publisher, if you have those plans, having them on your sell sheet is phenomenal. And just saying, we have ideas for how we can take this further if you're interested is always a good thing. Also, it's stinking cute, so that doesn't hurt.
Thank you.
Yep, you did great. You said like the mechanisms, the game info first, the goals. You went into theme really well. And then at the end where you were talking about like, okay, this could be like somebody's first like asymmetric game, and like talking about those things, like it was all a very good pitch. Great job.
Thank you.
Any other feedback from anyone?
No, that was clean.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Emily. And thank you all the designers. This was hard, because like you went against people that you did not know who they would be at first. So, great job, everyone, for
Yes,
trying
Emily,
to pitch.
it is important to note if it's not fun, if it's just placement art, but giving an idea of how you're envisioning it being a cute game, but then it's not final art is important, and whether or not you're planning on doing your own art or not, because a publisher is going to want to know, and also probably because if you're doing the art and you want to keep the art, then it's an additional part of the contract of ownership and usage. And some publishers want that, and some publishers don't want it. So, but being able to communicate it and say whether it's a hard, fast selling point for you is important, so that they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, I
Like-
have to sell.
Yeah, like being upfront with the publisher is so important.
Right. So if you're the artist and you say, I'm also an artist and I want to sell the art, and it's an additional contract piece. So for a publisher, it's not a hard yes or a hard no. For most of the ones I know, some it would be yes or no, a hard yes or no. But they're going to want to know because it is another factor to the contract that they're going to want to consider.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for participating. Chris or Julie, do you have any other thing you would like to plug or talk about that's going on in your lives?
Well, I think mine already got plugged for next weekend. Although I'm also doing Nun Pub. I'm moderating a panel the Sunday at 9 in the morning, which I know is super early, but it's two people in the Nigerian game scene talking about what it's like to design games, develop games, play games in Nigeria, which I think is super interesting, and I'm super excited that I got the opportunity to do it. So in addition to, what is it?
Cleveland Protospiel?
Cleveland Protospiel, Nun Pub is also happening the same weekend. I don't think it costs anything to sign up for either of them. So for game designers who want to go in and listen to some really great information, both of them are free. Have a weekend. Do it up.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm going to be in 6 panels because I did not understand that they were the same weekend. It's going to be fine. It's fine.
See, I at least have boundaries. I'm doing one for each. I was like, nah, I can't do more than that. Except when I have 2 different ones where it's 1 each.
Yeah, so Ben, like, I think he knows how to push my buttons, and he's like, you should do more. Like, can you do more than you did last time? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And I don't know.
Oh, people ask me that, and I go, no. How about none? As my list at the beginning has stated, my plate is absolutely way too full. So I do as much as I would love to do more. I always would love to do more, but I've actually finally hit my limit and realized I have to say no.
Yeah, I'll probably hit my limit and be like, actually, I'm not doing anything for like 3 months. Like, here's some videos I did. It'll be fine.
Those are for you, right? So yes, that is that's happening next weekend, and I will also say that soft pitch for anybody in design who's interested in looking to work with Gamma for both the trade show and Origins. They're always looking for people to do panels and talk about their expertise in a topic. So if you go to the Gamma website, submissions for the trade show for topics are the open submissions are still available, and it's a great way to get out there your ideas, be seen by other people, and also, share your expertise. And as somebody who's on the board who has done panels before, something else I don't have time for, since I will be one of the Ask a Board Member people and not to have time to do panels where I share information. So looking for other experienced people to give the thoughts in their brains to the rest of the community.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Chris, what are you doing?
So I just I'm working on my latest game, Pocket Paragons. We finished our Kickstarter. We're doing pre-orders and whatnot, and I have a print and play right now. I'm giving away, so people can kind of play the game at home right now. It's a really small card game, a small footprint. So here's some characters you can play at home with your circle, and we want people to enjoy that. So if you want to check it out, I'll put the link in the chat. It's basically a 3-minute lightning duel game. With different properties. It's kind of like a crossover.
That's super fun. Yeah, we're wrapping up Lost Ones dev work to go to manufacturing. So the Pledge Manager is open soon. So if anybody's interested in playing it, we'll have it on Tabletop Simulator. Just to play for funsies. The hard copy will be out this not next year. It is now next year. This year, later on this year.
Yeah, years are so hard, especially when you haven't left your house for 9 months.
Real.
What year is it? I don't know. I don't know. I have Alexa do everything and yell at me constantly. So
there you go.
So yeah, play some TTS games, print some games out, and play with your circle. That's what I encourage.
Yay! So thank you all for participating and watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Okay.
Everybody.
Bye.